Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Shine with Julie show. I'm certainly glad to be here today, and I have a very special guest with me, Cindy Byrd. And Cindy is one of the coaches I hold near and dear to my heart. She was with me in the beginning of my journey, helped me out immensely to figure out my voice. When I was making a transition in life from one career to the other. And if you've ever done that, you know it's kind of challenging. But just a little bit about Cindy, and then we'll get started. Cindy owns a business called Image Potential. And as we go through this interview, you'll see why that's such a fantastic name for her business. And she has a very diverse background, and she brings her whole creativity to the table. She works with individuals and businesses alike, and she loves to help people in regard to achieving their own goals and dreams. She's a success coach with I've Decided, and she is here to lend her wisdom and help us in any way that we need. And so welcome, Cindy. How are you today?
I am great, Julie. Thank you so much for inviting me to be with you today. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone.
I'm glad it worked out. So is there anything that you want to tell our audience different about you, something you want to highlight that I haven't mentioned yet before we jump right in?
I think just that, you mentioned I have a diverse background, and I heard it referred to one time as someone said I'm a slasher, and I went, "Ooh, that sounds horrible." But what they meant was, so I'm an educator slash speaker slash entrepreneur slash thinking partner. I'm a wife, a mom, a grandma, and
you are a slasher. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a slasher. I'm a community volunteer. I serve on the board of directors for Goodwill Industries of Central Illinois. I was recently elected to serve as a trustee on the ICC board at Illinois Central College. And I'm an avid gardener. I love gardening, and you'll hear me perhaps talk about that and how that connects to what I do. So I'm president of the Town and Country Gardeners here in Washington, and just have been active in many ways. I think everyone's a leader. And it doesn't take a title. It takes stepping up and seeing that you have a chance to improve something to make the world better. I know that sounds a little cliche, but it's true.
I agree. And it might be a small circle that you are a leader of or influencing, but I do agree with that wholeheartedly. So now you came from a teaching background. You were a professor. You've had a number of different, roles as you've grown and changed. But tell me about becoming an entrepreneur. Is that something that you always saw as, some people talk about, as a kid, I played, these imagination games. I always knew I was going to be, something, owning my own business. Was that you, or how did that come about?
No, that is not something I dreamed of as a child. I played a lot alone. I was kind of sick a lot as a child, and very sick at one point in my life. I was completely paralyzed for 4 months, and for almost a year. I spent a lot of time in the hospital, but I had a lot of time by myself, and so I would play school. I played that I was a teacher, and I would play secretary, that I was a secretary. I liked, and I became both of those things. I actually spent
I was just thinking that.
I spent 20 years of my life as a secretary slash administrative assistant at Illinois Central College. And I was late in life going to college myself. I didn't start college till I was 30. And it was just the process of learning more about myself, learning more about the business world, that it was that combination of both of those things. I went to college, over the course of 18 years, and continued to work and raise my family in addition to that. And I discovered more about myself. I discovered my super skills in one really awesome career management class that I took along the way. But I also drew from my own experience as an employee and as a
Yeah.
customer. I just saw that there was a chance for me to have a bigger impact in improving the experiences that people have, whether that's as an employee or whether that's as a customer. I see a lot of unnecessary bad experiences, negative experiences that happen in both of those roles in our lives. And I wanted to have a broader impact on improving that quality of life, especially in the workplace, because we spend so much time there. And I figured the best way for me to have a broader impact was to do two things: teach others how to do that, and to start my own business where I did that. You know, that I had a business that created positive experiences for people, and as well as taught people to do that very thing. And ironically, with the business world, all the subjects that I studied, the marketing, the management, the leadership, especially the branding, I saw how it was all connected. And it really summed up in one phrase for me. And I share this with people a lot: everything we do sends a message.
Yes.
And, you know, people want to have positive experiences. We want to matter. We want to have satisfying experiences. But I see a lot of businesses and individuals still struggle to make that happen. And I'm a firm believer that it doesn't have to be that way. And, you know, yes, there's a connection to image and reputation when you have negative things going on. But I also have learned that image is an inside job. That it really starts with us, because our values, our beliefs as individuals show up in our behaviors, our actions, how we communicate. And the same is true for a business. How a business operates on the inside influences how it shows up on the outside. And so I've spent my career really with my business helping people understand that concept of image being an inside job, that we have a way to focus on 5 characteristics that I think can improve things. And I think I shared that acronym with you, that I use the word image as an acronym, because a lot of people think I'm an image consultant. And while I might advise you on how you dress and makeup and hair, you know, because that is part of the package, that's not my focus. As I said, it's on the inside. And so I just saw the need to have a greater impact in the world. And I actually did a self-designed master's degree, and I purposely included some coursework on entrepreneurship so that I could learn more about what that entailed, and did it fit for me? And yeah, it was awesome to be able to do that.
So now when you are talking to a business versus an individual, what does that acronym turn into? Are there differences? Are there similarities? Because, you know, a business sometimes, it could be a small business owned by a particular person or 2 people, but you could also be working with a management team that has to have an image, and they all have individual insides, right? So talk to me about the difference in how you work with a team of people versus an individual, or, you know. Sure.
That makes great sense. And I'll answer that in a couple of ways. First of all, I didn't finish saying what the acronym is. The I is integrity. So how I define that is it's demonstrating moral courage, ethical behavior, and a commitment to principles. So that works whether you're talking about an individual or what are the guiding principles of that business.
Right.
You know, are we showing integrity to those guiding principles that are in place for your business? And I do the same thing. So a lot of individuals haven't thought about, well, what are my guiding principles? Right. So I help people discover that. And a lot of businesses don't have guiding principles, or they do, because if they've been in business for a while, they're in their culture. They just haven't put the framework around it. Right. Or they're just operating kind of willy-nilly. And
do you find most businesses are the willy-nilly?
I think they believe that just having values, a list of values, is enough. Yeah. And that's not, I don't believe that at all, because each one of us might look at that value and interpret it differently. When you're a business, that's important to realize, that you might have respect on your list of values, or even integrity on your list of values. But if you don't have, if you haven't taken the time to put that in the framework of, well, what does that mean for how I should behave and act and show up?
Right.
Then it's open for interpretation.
Yeah.
And so it's helping everybody understand. And I like to I've worked with several small businesses and organizations and schools. I have a school that I helped rebrand, and they didn't have guiding principles. And so what's really awesome in that process is to involve people. So, well, what does that mean for the kind of work that we do?
Right.
So if, let's say that freedom is one of your values as a company, well, what does that mean for the work that we do? Not the work that Joe Smith down the street does, but what about for our business? And so it's really helping that. So mindfulness is the M, and it's interacting and communicating with more self-awareness, more thoughtfulness. Again, I think an individual, certainly, you're a member of a management team, that's a critical characteristic for you to display, is that mindfulness. But a business as a whole also needs to be more mindful of and self-aware as to what does the whole organization represent, and how does the whole organization show up. The A is authenticity.
Internally as well as externally, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's so very, very key. I can't emphasize that enough, that internal piece for a business or an organization, to me, it's more important because it shapes how the kind of experiences that your employees end up creating for the people they serve. It absolutely does. And authenticity is the A. So that's knowing who you are, your values, your beliefs, and being genuine and sincere. So, Julie, I know you've worked with me as a personal branding coach and a business coach. And so you remember the process where I have people go back and explore and identify their values and beliefs, because whether we're working with someone individually or we're working with a business, we want authenticity. We want someone to be true to who they are and genuine. That authenticity piece is also important because it means people don't have to guess, who are you, or what are you all about? That they know they're getting the real deal when they're working with you or with a business. And for a business, businesses rely a lot on, of course, their external marketing that they do, no matter what tools they use, whether it's traditional advertising, whether it's social media, as we're using today. You hear a business say something about itself and you think, wow, that sounds very sincere and genuine, but then that's not what you experience when you actually go there. And that's, those are the things that I believe are so unnecessary. If we can teach people to just be more thoughtful about that. And part of that is that's the G for growth, the G in image. It's always seeking to continuously learn and improve. That's the educator in me coming out. I made the leap. People might be wondering, well, how did you what's this whole sequence of things? When did you start your business? You were an educator. Well, I earned my master's degree in 2002, and I wanted to try doing a couple of things. Start my business, which I did.
Yep.
And I wanted to try my hand at teaching at the college level, which I also did. So I started teaching part-time at Robert Morris University in Peoria. And in 2004, I stepped away from ICC completely and became a full-time business professor. And so as an educator, it's not just in the classroom. My business provides education, whether I'm coaching someone one-on-one or I'm conducting a customized workshop for one of my clients. So it's that I know the significance of continuous learning and improvement. And so bringing that to my clients and to individuals or businesses I work with is very important to me. I just know the value in that.
Yeah.
I don't care how
And
old
it
you are.
shows in your workshops, your, just the way that you can bring a group together, how you can organize that content and, really bring it for full circle. I'm sure your background has a lot to do with your success in that area. So, when you talk about
Absolutely.
it's a good
The
thing.
awesome thing about being a college professor and having my business is one fed the other.
Mhm.
Stepping away from being a manager at ICC was hard. I'd been there for 30 years. I loved what I did there. I was in charge of the student activities department. But I knew, if I was going to have this bigger impact, I needed to be in the classroom. I
Mhm.
needed to get my business underway.
Yeah.
And Robert Morris University embraced practitioner faculty. So in other words,
Yeah.
they wanted somebody who'd been out there actually
Mhm.
working already and doing things. And so I was being able to bring fresh perspective, fresh examples into the classroom from working with clients through my business and keeping fresh with business concepts and topics because I was teaching them
Right.
helped me be a better consultant and a better educator with my clients too.
Yeah, that was a
So
great circle of benefit for you and your
absolutely.
students both. I'm sure they reaped a lot of that and took a lot of that onto their own careers. That's awesome.
Well,
So now
that's,
we have
yeah.
one more, the E, right?
Yeah, the E is enlightenment.
Oh, I like
So
that.
I pondered the E for a while when I developed this acronym, and there are a lot of great words that I could have used, but this is the one that fits the best because I don't want anybody to go through life delusional.
Right.
That's the problem is we all have blind spots.
Mhm.
And I learned early on in my teaching career that I had some blind spots that were getting in the way of me being a successful professor. And it took someone taking me aside and giving me some very honest, constructive criticism for me to realize that I had those blind spots. And part of part of being thoughtful and mindful about how you're showing up is you have to operate from a place of good self-awareness and understanding and insight about yourself. What are your tendencies? What are your habits? What's your personality like? So uh, again, free from delusion so that you are very clear about how the world sees you
Right.
versus thinking something different. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that really resonated with me, and I heard somebody talk about this, an influencer on social media, and he was very well known, and of course I can't remember his name at the moment. I think he was on the Patriots. He was a football player. He had a big audience, and one day he woke up and realized, this isn't even who I am. I'm out here, I'm sharing a message that's not even my own. So thinking about enlightenment, who are you? Can you be real with yourself? Can you be
Mhm.
authentic with yourself? Because, at some point, you're not even going to remember what you're out there talking about because it's not you. So,
Mhm.
especially in this world where it's so much easier to have a message today, but
Yes.
it's so much of a responsibility to be true to that message for yourself and your audience. So, I love that you're doing that. And I love how you work with people. Um, you know, one of the things about this world is, it's great that we have these platforms. You no longer have to become part of a publishing company to
Mhm.
write something amazing and have an influence in the world. But yet there's also a balance between, being on those platforms and absorbing those platforms. So talk to me about, especially in the last year and a half, Cindy, have you spent different time with your clients making sure that they didn't get mired down in the negative in their life or their business? And what does that look like for you? How do you stay positive in, amidst a negative world?
That's a great question. And Julie, we've all been challenged by
Mhm.
that. And I go back to something that keeps me grounded, and it's what I share with my clients too, and that is stay focused on your why. You know, why do you want to have this business? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that purpose. You know, as cliche as both of those things sound,
Yeah.
you know, what's my why? What's my purpose? Staying focused on it can remind you of the good things that bring you joy, because
Yeah.
that's really when you're living your purpose, it should bring you the greatest
Mhm.
joy.
Yeah.
And when you've been through a challenging time, you can say, well, I'm going to put that aside. That doesn't matter to me anymore. Maybe you're reevaluating. And I think that's what I've helped people do over this last year is if they needed to reevaluate, great. Maybe we needed to strengthen their why.
Mhm.
Sometimes the why can get a little fuzzy because of distractions. And so, what are those distractions? Are they distractions maybe you brought on yourself, or are they real distractions that we need to figure out what to do with? And there's just a genuine fatigue that everyone is feeling. And
Yeah.
just being honest about that fatigue. What can you do to overcome that feeling of fatigue? For me, it's enjoying the ordinary moments of the day. My cat crawling up in my lap and purring. You know, practicing gratitude about the little things. I have a strong faith, so I turn to that. I told you I'm an avid gardener, so I spent time in my garden. I'm loving this rain that we're getting today because it means I get a break from watering everything.
Right.
But, you know, find whatever that is for you where you feel that greater sense of joy. And I find a lot of joy in my work. I'm not ashamed to say I'm 66. I'm entering my 20th year in business. I started my business when I was 48. 50 something. Anyway, I'm not doing the math correctly here. But anyway, I started my, anyway, later in life doing all of those things.
Yeah.
But, and I have friends who have retired from everything. You know, I don't teach full time anymore. So I did step away from that. But I have friends who go, why are you still working? And I go, well, I really enjoy what I do. It brings me a tremendous amount of satisfaction. I'm not done. You know, I'm not done with the work I've been put on this earth to do. And so I'm going to continue to do that. And that helps me stay positive. When you see those outcomes,
Right.
That's where the joy is. When I see how I've helped someone.
Yeah, when you can celebrate with others. I often say, and who knows what'll happen, but I'm pretty sure I will never ever fully retire. I might choose different ways to work. Like you said, you don't want to be in the classroom full time, but I agree. I think as long as there is breath in me, I have something to share, something to give. And, it might change and grow over time.
Exactly.
But I want to be like Moses. I want to work till I'm gone. Give me a job to do. I'm going to do it till I'm gone. So what would you say to that professional that, might be feeling, I mean, we've talked about this, Cindy, we talked about this a lot as I grew and changed. And, I think at the time I came to you, I was doing like 3 different unrelated things. It
Yes,
was
you were.
trying to find my way and follow my own yellow brick road, which I have found. But it took some time. And, somebody like me who's like a type A, get it done. I want it done now. And, there might be somebody out there listening that's in a job that is not so fulfilling to them. But they haven't quite found that road yet. They haven't found that purpose. And what would you say to that person? How should they kind of sit with themselves and explore some things? What are some tips you would give that person?
Well, I think the best tip I would offer is to learn as much as you can. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean just learn as much as you can about what interests you, that you think you might want to do as a business owner or an entrepreneur, but learn as much about yourself
Yeah.
as you can. That's really, really key. Self-awareness is critical because that's going to help you identify your why and your purpose. Without that foundation, you might go off on a tangent this way, you might try this, you're searching. And that's part of the process perhaps. But I learned that if I did it part-time while I was still working, that was my key to success. I really think sometimes it was a double-edged sword.
Right.
But what it allowed me to do is I was able to manage that, but really gave me validation that my business idea had value, that there were people who found value in what I offered and what I brought to the business community. And that validation just gave me more enthusiasm. It fueled my why. It helped me evolve over time because and it was less risky.
Yeah.
To be honest, going into business for yourself is risky. We all know that. But it allowed me to still take that leap, but still have the steady paycheck to support me. But more important, I think, is that learning. Learn about yourself. Learn, why do you want to do this? Gain as much self-awareness as you can, because you're going to be able to draw on that as you evolve to know this is what I should be doing, or this is not what I should be doing. When you've got that strong why and that purpose, then there's a peacefulness to that. There's an opportunity for you to feel okay with saying no to something that comes along and say yes when it aligns with your why and your purpose. One of the mistakes I made early on was trying to be all things to all people. And we know that that's not a good way to operate as a business. But I said yes to everything because I had the ability to develop curriculum, to develop a workshop. And somebody would say, oh, can you do a workshop on, this topic or on this topic? And I'd say, sure. And I'd go off and do my research and I would develop it and present it. So I built this massive repertoire of different topics. And in the process, I diluted my brand.
Right.
So when you have that foundation of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, this is what I do that's distinct from this person over here, and this is the brand promise that I uniquely bring to the world, that foundation is what's going to help you be successful for the rest of your decision making, the rest of everything you do. But anyway, my brand really didn't solidify, believe it or not. This is the branding specialist being very honest here and saying my brand didn't really solidify until about 11 years ago for me. I thought
and you've been in business for 20.
Right. So about halfway through. So I was operating halfway, through the time of my business with what I thought was a solid brand. And I realized that I'd kind of been confusing people.
Yeah.
And so I went through a process myself to rebrand my business and myself. I'm a single solo entrepreneur. So my business is my personal brand. My business brand is. And so taking myself through that process was powerful. And that's really when I became a personal branding coach to people, because I really saw the benefit that it provided for me. And all of a sudden I was more clear. That's really the power that I teach my clients, is when you're more clear about your brand and all of the elements in it, all the pieces of the foundation, then the people you're trying to attract to do business with you are more clear. They go, oh, I get it. And you're more compelling in that regard.
Yeah, I totally get that. And, I'm glad that you said that, Cindy, because I think so many people, want all the answers up front. They want to be an entrepreneur, but they think they have to have it all figured out. and they don't. And, I also appreciate what you said about you don't have to leave one career to start another. And there are so many ways that you can, I don't want to say dip your toe into entrepreneurship in the fact that you're going to try it, because I think if you are an entrepreneur, you that opportunity, and you deserve more than a try it.
Yes.
But it's still dipping your toe in, growing as you learn and expand, to make it work. And
Yes.
I really do think that there are so many ways to do that. And you are big at, I loved the talk that you give on mindfulness, because, I am so that, I'm a write it down, I'm an always go person. And, that's one thing that I really appreciate that you share is getting quiet with you, getting quiet with your God, getting quiet just to explore and hear, not so much talking and doing. And it takes practice to
It
be
does.
okay with that, because, somebody who's on the go as much as I am, it was, 10 minutes was like 10 hours to me at first. It's like, oh my gosh, sit here and be calm and mindful. What's that? I got stuff to do. But, it's in those moments when you do learn about you and learn more about your purpose that leads to that why. And, one thing I want to say about a why, and I'd love your opinion on this, is, you often hear your why should make you cry and your why should be out there. But, somebody's why can be simple. It can be, it can be something as simple as, I want to grow something because I want to accomplish that next step for me, for my family, whatever that looks like. And, sometimes I think people are afraid to specify a why because they think it's too small. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that's one side of it. And the other side of it is sometimes people don't want to explore it because it seems too big and too lofty. Mm-hmm. So simplifying that's somewhat the way you can evolve as a business owner and as an entrepreneur is your why may or may not change. I mean, my why, you heard me talk earlier, my why is that I'm passionate about quality of life in the workplace, especially, and how people are showing up and interacting and treating each other. I'm passionate about teaching people to create positive experiences and to just bring their best self to what they do. Mm-hmm. And part of bringing your best self is having that clear why, because it resonates with you enough that it's going to show up on the outside. And we might, yes, I agree with the, I want to provide for my family, I'm going to school for my kids, whatever the case might be. As an entrepreneur, though, almost always it's a little bigger than that already. You just haven't articulated it. As an entrepreneur, you want to have some kind of bigger impact, but don't shy away from that. Oftentimes, my clients will immediately go, I'm supposed to have a vision for the world. I can't change the world. And I say, I'm not asking you to change the world, but your purpose will carve out the corner of the world that you are focused on. And that's why, that's why they go hand in hand. It's what is that bigger situation that you see out there in the world? You might be passionate about the fact that there are children in countries around the world that go to bed hungry every night. Maybe that's something that really matters to you. Can you possibly touch every one of those children and help each one of those children individually? No, of course you can't. But what does that mean in your own corner of the world that maybe you start a food bank? Maybe you work at a food bank. Maybe you know, it can be many, many things that you decide to do with that.
Right.
But I have found that one of the mistakes that businesses especially will make, not, and maybe individuals too, is they'll go straight for the goals. And they make a list of what they want to accomplish. And goal setting is awesome. We need to have goals to work towards, but you might be setting yourself up with a list of goals that are not aligned and won't get you aren't living your purpose through those goals. You aren't getting towards your why because you haven't figured out what that is yet. So you might be wasting time, wasting other resources because they're not really the goals that you should be working towards. And I think that's why that starting out in a more manageable way, taking it, not, I agree with you. It's not just toe in the water. It's, I'm all in. I'm going to do this, even if you're doing it part-time. I mean, I learned as much as I could about what would it mean for me to run this business on a part-time basis when I'm working a day job. How am I going to go work with my clients if somebody wants me to come and do a workshop on a Thursday afternoon, or whatever? I had to figure out all of those pieces, and I learned that the best thing I could do is to be honest with my clients up front and say, I also work full time. And so let's talk about what will work best for your schedule and for mine. And so, there are all kinds of opportunities to think those things through. But my clients, interestingly enough, were very flexible. And it was very gratifying. And again, that was that validation that I needed, that I was bringing something to the business community that had value.
And you didn't beat around the bush. You addressed the issue. You were upfront, and you said, these are the parameters that we can work together. And I'm sure they appreciated that. So I want to make sure, Cindy, that people know how to find you, how to connect with you. So LinkedIn is a platform that you are on a lot. You provide a lot of value there. And so your LinkedIn site is down below here, and that is the best way to connect with you. People can, connect. That's what we do on LinkedIn, right? We connect and message you, and individuals and business owners, business managers alike. Cindy is a phenomenal resource, and all the things that she talked about today are things that she can help you with. Figuring out your purpose, figuring out your why, figuring out your first or next step, how to show up. She has a great, phenomenal tool about how to build a message in a very easy to follow way. And whether it's a small message or a big message, like a workshop, she has tools that can help. Cindy, I thank you so much for your time today. It's always a pleasure. I always learn something from you. And to everybody else out there, remember, go and shine. If you don't believe you can, I do. So borrow my belief for today, and have a great one.
Thank you, Julie. Bye, everybody.